Alright guys, so I'm going to show you how you can have two basses at the same time. I tell people always, especially new students, not to do this because it's something that requires a lot of precision and like it really important mix down work to get it to work properly. So when you have two basses at the same time, you're just going to overwhelm the whole frequency spectrum really, really easily, you know? But there's times when you can balance them together, provided you're really careful, so you can get a really cool double bass line kind of groove going on. All right. So let's have a little listen to this loop so far. This is it's already been mixed to a degree, but it's probably not perfect yet. But here's sort of what it sounds like, so you know what you're working with. So this group is just the glitchy snare effects I made in yesterday's video, and for drum samples, we got the Ghost Syndicate samples. You can check out the affiliate links down below if you need to download any drum hits yourself. And all the basses are from my Faceplant Prophecy pack, which is also linked down below. Plugins today, we're just using the multipass and the compactor. The compactor is free, but the multipass is not. That allows us to do it in multiband though. You can route the compactor in your own DAW in different ways to also do multiband sidechaining if you need to. But it's a lot easier with the multipass. So how do we have these two basses together? So the first bass is this one here. My Evil Squelchathon preset from Faceplant Prophecy, which has been bounced out to audio already, okay? And so it sounds like this on its own. Okay. And then the second bass is this Grit Filth Stab, also on my Prophecy preset pack, which is really nice. And it's been composed in such a way where it actually really sits in some nice positions here. So you're basically not on the downbeat, but you're sort of one beat after always. So it's like coming in always a little, like sort of one little beat late. I don't know if that's actually a beat. I think it's less than a beat, isn't it? Yeah, it's like a tick, one tick late or something like that. Because a beat would be all the way over here. So it's like a quarter of a beat, I would say. A quarter of a beat late always. So if you hear it sort of in the groove with the drums, it's got this lovely like lazy feeling to it, you know? Just one note, D, but because it's so late and the timing is really interesting, it's already creating a great vibe, you know? And yeah, basically, because it's sort of like late and it's happening often after the kick or after the snare, it actually makes, the composition even easier, makes the mix down easier because you're not conflicting with the kick and snare really, So these stabs are like, because they're coming in late, they don't really even need to be properly sidechained to the kicks, for example, here, because it's happening just after the kick always, There'll be a little bit of an overlap where we'll sidechain it a little bit anyway, just because the end part of the kick will conflict with it a little bit, But as it is, it's already like quite clear and clean in the mix down, Okay, but I want to add that that funky stab in my composition here with this bass line. Because together it's going to create this super groove now. But it already sounds really messy, right? And that's because we're doing two basses at the same time. So we have to give priority we have to prioritize one bass over the other one. So you got to think like logically, which bass are you going to prioritize out of the stabs and the longer bass here? All right. Well, obviously it's going to be the stabs, right? Because they're shorter, they're intermittent, they only come in occasionally. So when they do come in, you might as well hear them properly, right? So that means we're going to prioritize the stabs and we're going to weaken the sustained bass here. So that means we're basically just going to put the sidechain on the sustained one and take out all of the conflicting area whenever the stabs hit, right? So I don't need to look at span to tell you, but if you do want to look at span, you'll see on the stabs that, the majority of the sound is just in the low end. We have got all this high end, but conflicts always exist in the low end and the mid range. Massive sub, this sort of extra harmonic bit. Here it starts to taper off. It's only really up to 250 hertz or so. 0 to 250, that's the target area. We need to get that to come through cleanly. So we're going to just sidechain all of the low end out of the Evil Squelchathon bass here. And that'll let the stab low end come through, right? So we set the multipass up and we'll just use the low band here, put the compactor on, set the sidechain to the stabs, and now we can take a listen. So here's some sidechaining tips. You want the attack on 0 because we want it to happen quickly. We want it to happen straight away as soon as it detects the stab. The range is going to give you how much sort of sidechain we're going to sort of threshold, The mix, we can use that to fine tune how much of the effect we want again. The release, we're going to sort of guess how long the stabs need to do their job before we can sort of come back up again, So maybe we'll go a little bit longer here. And then this is the part where you also want to find a sweet spot. We saw earlier on span it was around 250, right? But it's not going to be exact. It's going to be somewhere in that area. I like it around there, a little bit higher up, 294. And so that is then a great setting for a first go. So think of your sidechaining like you're going on a first date. The goal is to make a good impression and then see if you get a second date, right? So essentially, I've made a good impression on this first date with the sidechain here. Okay, so that's done, right? But later, I might get a text for a second date, and in that case, we're going to have another date. I'm going to put another sidechain on and do it again. So why would I do 2 sidechains rather than just 1? Let's listen in the beat first. Now let's listen again in isolation. Let's hear those stabs on their own. Really get to know them, get to know the low end of them. Put the other bass back on. Still a bit murky and a bit muddy, And of course it is, because we're doing 2 basses together at the same time. So, I already told you, I tell beginners, like, you shouldn't even do this. That's how messy things are. So if you think that one sidechain's going to do that for you, you're sorely mistaken. So we're going to have to do another one. So this time we'll do less extreme though. Okay, so this time the range and the mix are a lot lower. I'm going to do a different frequency band here. It's pretty good around there. Might get a bit longer. Okay, so now I've got 2 on there. Now I've weakened the first bass quite a lot, you know, and that's bad, isn't it? Because now it's weak. The bass is weak. I know. But the stabs come through a bit more now. And so we have this blend and this constant battle, this trade war between the 2 sounds, you know, and it's never going to be perfect because the whole concept to begin with is just not a good concept, you know. However, I say it's not a good concept. You know, theoretically it's not a good concept, but you can still do this, and I do still do this in my tunes. It's just that you have to bear in mind that it's never going to be quite, you know, perfect, and you've got to be really, really clever about how you're going to mix them together. So that side chaining is the first thing. And we just have to keep tweaking until we find the best of both worlds. It's pretty good there though, right? And especially with the compactor and that technology that it uses, we get in a really clean result compared to previous sidechain techniques, you know? So it's pretty good overall. Okay, so it's good. It's an 8 out of 10 mix down. It's not 10 out of 10, but maybe it won't ever be 10 out of 10 because maybe the 2 basses overlapping is just too difficult, you know? But there's a few other things we can do to try and make it even cleaner. And we've got to get separation between these 2 sounds. That's the goal. So another thing we can do is we can mid-side EQ them separately, right? Because we've just been fiddling around with the low end, you know, as a whole, but now we can fiddle around with the low end of only the sides. So what we can do is we can have one of them having more stereo and the other one having less stereo in the low end, you know? So let's have this this bass has more stereo. So I'm going to side cut it quite low, around 60 or so. And then for the stabs, we're going to side cut it a little bit higher. Maybe around 140 or 150. Let's play them together. Yeah, around 150. Now we've got even more separation, so it sounds even cleaner. Now it's like 9 out of 10 mixed down, you know? If you're not sure which way round to do it, you can think in your head, like, maybe the sound that's on more continuously for longer should have more stereo warmth, because it's kind of going to give you more stereo warmth in general throughout the whole loop, and so the stab can have less. But yeah, you can just try it the other way around if you need to as well. So let's say that we're happy, you know, with this sort of 62 and 150 on the stabs. Let's try and do it the other way around, right? Again, we can listen in context if we're not sure. And we'll go back to the other method we had just a moment ago. I like that more because it gives me more overall fullness in the loop, you know? So I'm going to do it that way around. The stabs suffer a bit, they lose a bit of stereo warmth. But now there's a bit more separation. You could even do something like, maybe for a 10 out of 10 mix down, you could even do a separate side chain for the sides only, a dynamic side chain using the multipass and the compactor. Maybe I'll do that on another video. That'll be a super bonus advanced technique. But if you're just mid-side EQing them like this, you're going to create that separation anyway, you know? So it's still going to do the job just as well. If anything, it's going to do it too well, you know? But that's absolutely fine. So that's great. So now they're sort of separated. We've done the main things. We've we've controlled the low end kind of but using the multipass, we've taken low end out of the sustained bass up here, and we've then also taken some stereo out of the stab, so that there's a bit more separation between the two. And now you really have you're really able to get them both to work together. The next thing you can obviously do is tweak the volumes, because just to get it perfect, you're going to have to get the levels just right as well. So we can have a little play going up and down on both and see what kind of vibe we prefer. Maybe I'll take the stabs down a bit and bring the sustained one up a bit, Something that's good to do in context of your mix. But yeah, you can kind of toy around with the volumes of both until they're kind of sitting in a better spot in the mix down again. But yeah, through the mid-side EQing and the multiband sidechaining with the compactor, we've created enough separation, and we've made it possible so that we can have two basses together. Although I don't advise it, that's a way that you can go about doing it, And so you can get some nice funky bass grooves like that, What we need to do then is we put these two basses in a group here, and then we can have a little side cut on the whole group just to tidy up the side information like one more time. It's pretty nice. And then we can then add a sidechain for the kick as well. So this will cover like both of them together in a kind of just a quick group fashion. And again, we'll just do the low end of the both of the basses together with the compactor, and we'll just mix it in here. There's not too many kicks in this loop. It's kind of just like one every sort of, one every 2 bars or something? It's sort of, yeah, every 2 bars you've got one here and then you've got 2 at the end always, So there's not that many kicks, but we want to make sure that they're still nice and tidy though. That's good. Again, we can add on another multipass and do another one later if we still feel like we need more. You don't have to. I always see people using like one sidechain plugin, but I always use sidechains like I use EQs. It's like a subtle, slowly getting the mix down better piece by piece kind of thing. It's not always a one and you're done kind of job. Sometimes, like I said, it's kind of like you do this first sidechain as the first date, and you have a great first impression. But later on, when your ears are tuned to the mix more, you can add another sidechain on. And you might think, oh, well, why don't I just tweak the first one and make it more like, change the settings? Well, if you add another one on, you can have a different, release time. You can have a different mix level. You can have a different sweet spot for the, where you're doing it here. So you'll have a bit more control. Because remember, like, if this one's more subtle, but it's longer, then I'm sort of I'm focusing in more on the tail of the side chain, like the later part of it, and I might be focusing, like now I'm going higher up the frequency spectrum because I'm doing it less. I'm doing like a slightly lower side chain, but higher up in the spectrum. So it's different, so 2 different settings, I have more of a fine tuning, fine control of the whole mix down, so it's like, it's actually opening up more opportunity to be more precise, So isn't that a masterclass in sidechaining for you guys today? Aren't you lucky? Imagine if you could see my face as well. You'd be all over it, wouldn't you? I'm just kidding. Anyway, so that's my video today on how to get 2 basses to fit together, and also some expert sidechaining advice, sort of stuff that I do in these really fiddly mix downs where you've got loads of stuff going on and you're trying to get the best clarity between everything that you possibly can. This is where all the hard work comes in, all the elbow grease and the really using your ears. Make sure you take breaks with your ears as well so that you get the right settings on your sidechain, because you won't be getting the right settings in if your ears are too fatigued. So take rests. And there we go, my G's. Thanks for watching. Hope it was helpful for you guys. And remember to check out all the affiliate links down below if you want to grab yourself some drum samples, you want to grab yourself some presets, hit up my links in my description box and you'll actively support the channel doing it that way. While you're down there, come and join me on Patreon as well. Hit me up for one-on-one lessons. Email me if you want any mixing and mastering work done. And finally, hit the like button, leave a comment down below and subscribe as well if you're new or if you're just one of those 50% of people who watches but hasn't subscribed. All right, that's it from me today. More from me very soon. Much love.